committed to doing OBGYN, and then all of a sudden you had this realization that your calling was actually neurosurgery. So we wanted to hear a little bit about how you kind of came to that decision, and also like what it's like to be a woman applying to medical school, in medical school, the desire to go into neurosurgery, which is like a very male-dominated field. And you can go ahead and take it away. I don't know if you have a screen, or we're just doing like more of an informal Q&A type thing, but
I don't have a screen, so I could just chat, and then if anyone has questions, they can ask me.
Beautiful. Okay, I will let you.
Okay, and is Hadley also joining as well?
So unfortunately, Hadley is not going to be able to join us today. She had something come up, so she was very sad about that, but it's okay. Take as much time as you want, and when you have to go, you can go, not a problem.
Okay, excellent. So I guess I'll just start, kind of give like a background about myself, and then I'll get into some of those questions that you had. So if you couldn't tell by the way I said water bottle, I'm from Long Island, which there's a lot of participants on here, so I'm guessing they're from all over. Yes, okay. So I grew up about an hour east of New York City, to put myself on the map for some of you fine young future healthcare professionals. So I grew up on Long Island. I went to college at Binghamton University, which is a school in New York that you wouldn't hear about unless you're from New York. In college, I went into college thinking something in the healthcare field. I was always interested in science, and I wanted to do something that I felt was meaningful with my time and with my career. My older brother, he's like 11 years older than me. So when I was going into college, he was already completing his residency, and he was going into OBGYN. And he's the only physician in my family, so I'm not from like a line of doctors. He was the first, so he's kind of been a major influence on my decision to go into medicine. In college, I flirted with the idea of like going to PA school, going to dental school, and ultimately I kind of assessed like my personality type, and kind of what I was most interested in, and that kind of helped me to like decide medicine versus like dental. And then my personality type, I felt fit better within like the field of being a physician. And we could get back to my brother being an OBGYN, because that will obviously, as you kind of gave a little summary or an intro, influence my original thought that that's what I wanted to do. In college, I also played lacrosse. So I was a Division I athlete in college. So, they always reminded us we were student athletes, student first, but we were spending a good amount of time training and, watching film and doing all the things that go into competing at that level. So then after medical school, I took a year off between medical school and, between college and medical school. And that's when I studied and took my MCAT. And as everyone could probably relate to, and I know most of my colleagues, after you take a big standardized test that you studied and worked so hard for, you naturally feel like you did terribly, and you get your score back like a month later. So after I took the test for a month, I was like, oh no, what am I going to do? Like, I don't think I did very well. I'm not going to get into medical school. So in that time, to kind of make myself feel better, I started thinking of like other avenues that I might pursue if that be the case. And I was inspired by like a family friend at the time who was in the military. So I kind of had this like idea pop into my head that if I didn't do well in MCAT, I didn't get into medical school, I would join the military and serve. And this was all like also part of like my history of being like an athlete, because I think you could see the obvious parallels. So I kind of started to think that if I didn't get into medical school, I would join the military, serve for X amount of years, and then maybe reapply or go down a different route. So I ended up doing well enough on the MCAT that I was able to get into medical school, and which I was obviously ecstatic about, but I also was kind of like a little like sad that I wasn't going to pursue this military career. So I ended up finding a way to do both. There's a way to like go into medical school and join the military, whether it's the Army, the Navy, Air Force. Marines use Navy physicians, and so that's why I didn't mention them. So essentially, I'm going to medical school. I'm part of the Navy, and after I complete all my training, I'll serve in the Navy. So that's also worth mentioning because it's kind of also another field that's male, mostly male dominated still. And also it's also another kind of layer that will go into like my future career planning, because it's an extra 4-year commitment to an already long path of training and whatnot. So then to answer your original question, I went into med school thinking that I wanted to do OBGYN. So like I said, my brother's an OBGYN. He absolutely loves it. I just saw a question from Angela. Yes, I'm in the HPSP program, and I'll drop my email at the end. So if anyone has questions, you can email me. So yeah, my brother's an OBGYN, absolutely loves it. He practices in Tennessee, so I don't see him all that much, but whenever I would talk to him, he would just tell me how great OBGYN is, how he could see me doing it, that I had the right personality for it, how it's, the best field ever because it's like a mix of medicine and surgery, and you're taking care of, women, and that was really exciting to me. And you're taking care of women like throughout their lives. So you had all this, patients from 18-year-old to 80-year-old. So sorry, my voice. So when I started by third year of the 4 years of medical school is when you start going into the actual hospital, and you rotate through all like the major like areas of medicine. So you have like an internal medicine rotation, a surgery rotation, OBGYN, pediatrics, neurology, and psychiatry. So I did my medicine rotation, loved it. Then I did my surgery rotation, loved it even more. You'll hear when you guys eventually, if you go into medical school or PA school or whatever it is, they'll say the first thing you need to decide is if you want to go if you want to do surgery or not. So I decided I want to do surgery. And then when I did my OBGYN rotation, I also loved it. So I figured like, okay, yes, I went into med school thinking I want to do this. I kept an open mind. Like I enjoyed medicine, I enjoyed surgery, but like, I think this is what I'm going to do. And it was funny because in January of this year, it was just when I had finished my OBGYN rotation, when people would ask me like what I was going to go into, or they would say like, do you know what you're interested in? And I was like, not only am I interested, but I'm 98% sure I'm going to go into OBGYN. And I always laughed at myself when I'd say 98% because it sounds kind of ridiculous. But I was like, I still feel like there's like a 2% chance that like something will come in and like sweep me off my feet. And but like that's so unlikely. So I'll say 98%. Some days I would say 95, some days I'd say 97, like the number switch. So fast forward a couple of months, and it was time for my neurology rotation, which I got to do at Lenox Hill, which is very exciting, a beautiful hospital and a great group, as I'm sure you guys have experienced. And my very first week of neurology was a week of neurosurgery. And it's actually some other background information is that for our school, you get 6 weeks of neurology. 1 week is dedicated neurosurgery. But for our class, because of COVID and the pandemic, and we started our rotations late, so they had to kind of make cuts along our third year course. So one of the cuts they made is they made neurology from 6 weeks to 4 weeks. So the majority of people in my class only did 1 day of neurosurgery. Like it was just a 1-day thing. I don't know how I got so lucky to do a week. I think there was only a handful of us. I think it had to do with just we might have had like an extra person in our group that was at Lenox Hill at that time because he was from the class above us and he didn't get to finish his neurology rotation because he was because of COVID. So I think we had one extra person. They offered us like, if hey, does anyone want to do a week of neurosurgery? And I, not thinking I wanted to do neurosurgery, but knowing I enjoyed the OR, said I'll do a week if you're offering. So I came for my weekend. I guess it was meant to be because, like I said, I was like one of like the few people in my class of 100 that did a full week, and I absolutely loved it. All week, Dr. Langer was like, have you considered neurosurgery? You should do neurosurgery. You should do neurosurgery. And I was like, oh, like that's funny. Like I'm not doing neurosurgery. And to give you guys a little bit more context, usually like you apply for residency in like September of your 4th year. Neurosurgery is a very competitive field, if you can imagine. So a lot of people start like we're doing research and trying to like work on their resume early on. So to make a decision in March, I just thought, and I was going into OBGYN, which is there's way more residency spots. So like things like research are less important. Still important but in terms of like trying to match in residency, it doesn't matter as much. So here I'm in March and I'm like, that's not realistic at all that I'm could possibly, compete with people that have been doing research since their first year of medical school. So I kind of was like not even thinking about it. The other part of it is that's unique to me is that a lot of people that go into competitive fields or that want to go into pursue competitive fields will take a research year between their 3rd and 4th year of medical school. So they'll basically postpone graduating by a year and they'll go work they'll work under some researcher and do a year of research where they can just dedicate to like contributing to the field, learning about the field, writing papers, getting their names on things and like building their resume. Because I'm going to the Navy, that's not something that they really allow you to do because, they'll pay for your medical school with like the agreement that you're going to serve and they want you where they need you rather than where you might want to go. So I didn't really have the option to take a year for research. So I was kind of just like I didn't think it was an option. But throughout the week, I just had the best week. I was actually a neuroscience major in college, so I did have some love for neuroanatomy like earlier. And I already knew I liked the OR, and just being in the OR for a week and I saw all these amazing cases, I just like fell in love with it. Seeing a real brain for the first time was incredible. And the attending surgeons and the PAs at Lenox Hill were all amazing to work with. They're incredible teachers. They were people that I could see myself being in the future or being like in the future. So I ended up, I had some elective time and I ended up doing a 2-week elective in neurosurgery at North Shore University Hospital, which is on Long Island, which is where the residency program is. So I was able to, shortly after my week with Dr. Langer and the rest of the neurosurgery team at Lenox, I was able to do a 2-week rotation with the residents. And I had an amazing experience. The residents were awesome. I got to see a lot of different things that I didn't see at Lenox Hill because North Shore is level 1 trauma center. So I got to see so many different things. I just had such a nice, amazing time, and I couldn't get enough of it. And I talked to a bunch of attendings and people that are experienced in the residency application process, and everyone was so encouraging and basically told me, no, it's not too late. Just buckle up and start putting in work now, and you can find somewhere that you can match your residency. So here I am right now. It's July. I'm currently doing a month. It's called a sub internship. It's basically your 4th year of medical school. You'll do a sub internship in the specialty that you're applying to, and you'll just spend a month with the residents, and you're essentially in between like being a medical student and an intern. You're essentially trying demonstrate to yourself, to the residents, to the attending, that like you can function at an intern level, and that you would be a good asset to their program. But also you're trying to confirm your love for the field, and you're trying to confirm that like this is something that you're going to want to do for the rest of your life, because it's a 7-year residency program. It's tiring, it's a lot, but I think it's worth it. I've loved every second of it. So that's basically my story.
Such a cool story. Especially, I know people want to hear more about the HPSP scholarship, or just HPSP program. And I would say, how did you find this program, and like what are you going to be doing? Are they okay with you doing neurosurgery for the Navy, or are you gonna have to kind of like do a different form of like emergency medicine or something while you're there?
So I found, to answer your first question, I had said how like when I was I was very nervous about my MCAT score, and I was trying to think of like a different career. That's how I like was inspired. And I had a family friend that was in the military. That's how I kind of like my, wheels started turning, thinking about the military. And then I got really excited about it. And then when I realized I was able to pursue medicine, I thought about like, is there a way I can incorporate the two? Is there a way that I can, similarly, I knew that like for college, if you serve in the military, they'll pay for your college. If you, so I wanted to see if there's a way I could do that. So I looked into probably just a quick Google search, and I found that I stumbled upon the HPSP program, which is redundant because the P stands for program. But anywho, I stumbled upon HPSP, and I found a recruiter to talk to about it. And essentially, the commitment is you go to medical school for 4 years. They pay for your medical school, and then you can either do a military residency, because there are military hospitals, or you can do a civilian residency, which civilian residency just means the regular residency that a non-military member would do. So you can do either of those, and then after you have finished your training, then you will serve as an attending physician in the military. There are other routes you can go. I don't want to like make the talk all centered around this, but another route you could go is you could do an intern year as a resident. Like your first year of residency is your intern year. So you can do your intern year in whatever specialty, and then you could kind of take a break from your residency and pursue what's called a general medical officer tour with the military. So you've only done 1 year of residency, and you take a board exam to say that like you can practice, and you serve as a general medical officer. So you can essentially like go overseas and be deployed. You'll be doing, obviously you only had 1 year of training, so it won't be like a specialized field. It will be probably more like doing physicals and making sure that any service member that isn't up to date on the physical or needs to be evaluated to make sure that they are all set for deployment, things like that. So you can serve your time doing a general medical officer tour for the 4 years and then return to residency. That's something people do too. It all depends. Everything depends on numbers and what the military needs. So if they only need 2 neurosurgeons in 7 years, which is, what would be you coming out of residency in 7 years, if they're only going to need 2 neurosurgeons, they'll only let 2 people do a residency. So for fields, some people will, because of that, if they're like, no, I definitely want to do this specialty of medicine, they'll do the general medical tour, and then they'll go back to it.
Got it. Very cool. So someone had asked a little bit earlier, because you were talking about how like your personality seemed to fit being a doctor, and then maybe it seemed to fit OBGYN at a time. So someone was asking, can you elaborate more on what you mean by your personality type, like fitting?
Sure. So you'll notice that, and it likely varies by the hospital that you're at. Like, I can't say that every specialty is the same, like hospital by hospital, but you'll notice when you're kind of rotating through, if you decide to go into medicine, you'll notice that like different specialties will have different personality types, and you kind of will figure out when you're in it, like what kind of people you mess with the most. So if you can imagine for OBGYN, like it's a very, because you're taking care of women's health, and it's like gynecology is a very personal, vulnerable experience. You can imagine that like a gynecologist should be someone that can make a patient feel so comfortable. They're going to tell you things that they've never told anyone else before. So interpersonal skills, while they're incredibly important throughout medicine, it takes a different set of skills to be able to make someone feel comfortable in that situation. So that's one of the things I mean. And like I said, you'll see, like, when you go on your rotations, there's going to be residents, there's going to be attendings, and you'll kind of get a feel that like these are like this group of people are the ones that like I just fit with best, I work with best, I like jokes they make, I like how they talk to each other, I like their body language, whatever it may be. So that's just something that you'll find out with experience. And like I said, I think it definitely differs where you go, because every residency program will have a different culture, and that just depends on how they kind of jive, and how the leaders kind of act and set up the culture. And when you're a junior resident or a medical student, you kind of just go with the flow with what the people above you kind of set up. So that's something that can definitely differ place by place, but you'll kind of get a feel of who you mesh well with and who you work best with. So it's definitely like it's more of an experience type of thing.
Gotcha. Sharon, a little bit, you're cutting out a little bit. I feel like the headphones could be, I don't know, if let me put them back in and then put them back. I don't know. I can. Sorry. Can you hear me right now? Yeah, I can hear you. Now I can hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, now you're good. Now you're good.
If it breaks in and out again, and I'll try to fix that. Okay.
Sorry. But yeah, everyone wants to hear what you have to say, so I want you to break in and out.
Was there anything that I needed to repeat from that last part?
I think so. I mean, I was able to kind of understand, like, because it would be like a word or two, like it wasn't that bad. So I think you're okay. Yeah, I think you're good. All right, cool. Yeah, thank you for that. Sorry.
I have a quick question, just so I know my audience. Is everyone here, or the majority of people here, women, young women?
So we're not sure about the data right now, but when this program was done last year, there were like 83% women. Okay, we're getting a lot of yeses in the chat. So there are a ton of women here. There are men too. And Dr. Langer was saying before how like this stuff is still important for like men to hear.
Of course.
Yeah, but yeah, okay. So we do have a lot of women joining us. Someone said yes, but not young. That's really funny.
Youth is within,
Yeah, right. That's really funny. Yeah, so the audience, it's mostly high school, I would say, like through college. There are medical school students too. There are people who are out of med school, I think even attendings, like there are older, but I would say your majority is going to be like that high school to college range.
Okay.
So that's why there are a lot of questions about like how do you find research and like stuff like that.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah. So if you want to like talk about, were you able to do research in medical school, or you ended up not doing research in medical school?
So I did research in college.
Okay.
Which is like an important part of, not mandatory, but definitely an important part and helpful for when you're applying to medical school. And then I was able to, and I'm still working on research now to help with my residency application. So in college, basically when you're in college, you're paying for your education, right? So people, like PhDs that have labs in the school, like they're expected to have students work for them because it's part of your education. A lot of the times you could get like credits to do so, like you can use it as like one of your classes. So in that regard, I remember I had a kind of a busier schedule because I was playing lacrosse, but I decided like that the year between sophomore and junior year that I was going to stay in Binghamton for the summer and start doing research, because I figured that if I was there for the summer and I could be there every day, they could train me so that when I came back in the fall, I could just get right into it and I didn't have to worry about the training portion of it with lacrosse, and I could kind of make it work for my schedule. So I was, you can hear me well still, right?
Perfectly.
Okay. So like I said, I was a neuroscience major in college. So naturally, and that's what I was interested in. So naturally, I thought a neuroscience lab would be like the best fit for me. So I essentially just like looked up like Binghamton University, like neuroscience department. And it's just like a list of all of the PhD like faculty that had labs. And I just emailed a bunch of them, basically saying like, hi, like introducing myself. I'm interested in going into medicine. Maybe I didn't even say that, but I'm interested in like trying to get into research. I'll be here for the summer. Is there any chance like you have a spot, or you can meet with me and we can discuss further? And a bunch of them did answer back. So I like met with a few of them. And one of them, Dr. Christopher Bishop in Binghamton, he was doing research on Parkinson's disease, and I met with him. He said he had room for me in his lab over the summer. He seemed great. I spoke to some of his like PhD students. They were all wonderful. So I decided I'd work with him. Granted, it was that summer I wasn't paying for courses, so I was essentially working for free, but it was something like my mom would always be like, you're not getting paid now, but it'll pay off later. And it absolutely did. And it was a really good experience. And some people might even do that and realize that they love research. So it's also important for that reason too. So that's how I did that in college. And then in medical school, same thing. Like most medical, actually I don't want to say most, a lot of medical students in between their first and second year, you have like a nice it differs by school. Our school, we had 10 weeks of summer between first and second year, but you had time to kind of spend doing research. And of course, like mixing in like taking like vacation time and like decompressing and doing things that you love, because that's important too. But a lot of people were able to do that and then also work on some kind of research project. So basically for our school, there was like, our school provided us with like a list of like people that were looking for students to help them with the projects, but you also very well could just reach out to attendings and ask them if they had any projects. So when I was trying to get into neurosurgery research, I had already spent 2 weeks doing an elective with the neurosurgery residents and attendings at North Shore University Hospital. Most of the residents are working on research projects, so I was just kind of like, hey, does anyone have anything for me? The attendings that I would be like in the operating room with, that I like started forming relationships with, I would be like, hey, do you have anything I could work on? And things started coming my way. So it sounds like how, like, if you've never done research before, it sounds like how do you get involved with that? I don't know anything, but you have to remember everyone starts somewhere. And no matter whether you're in college or medical school, like, you are paying for your education. So people, like, that's part of your education if you want it to be. So you just have to ask, all you have to do is ask. And some people will say no, but if you ask a bunch of people, And it was just, you know, one email, and I just changed in college, I just changed the name and changed like the lab, and you start things, there are plenty of opportunities.
Yeah, that's a neat way of looking at it, of like you're there like paying for an education, and like if you want to be in a lab you should be able to, and like I think the universities agree with that, like they push that when they talk to their students, and like so I agree with you. Yeah, I think research can be really valuable, and it's fun. I saw here Julia asked, could you speak more about any discouragements, comments, intimidation as a woman in so many male-dominated fields, and how did you get past that? Because with like the military and neurosurgery, there's definitely, yeah, I'd love to know too, just as a person who's also interested in that as well, like how, like, do you have thicker skin? Have you not really felt like that stuff happened to you? And if you could just speak more on that.
So the best example I can think of that happens all the time, and my like female colleagues in my class, it's happened to them a number of times. A lot of times when you I mean, it's not said all the time, but I've had multiple interactions where I'll be in a room and people will assume I'm a nurse. Whereas my boyfriend's also in medical school, and people will think he's a resident, you know? And so for people, I know that there are people like in different parts of their journey. So if you're like in high school and you don't know this as much, it's basically residency is the training between medical school and being like a full-fledged practicing attending. So when you're in medical school, and I've like alluded to this, so I'm sorry, I should have explained, but when you're in medical school, you apply for residency, which is the length depends on what specialty. So for neurosurgery, it's the longest one, 7 years. So you're a doctor, but you're learning to be a doctor of that field, so that you answer to your attendings who went through the same process. So meaning that like my boyfriend, who's a medical student, is mistaken for a resident, like people assume he's a doctor essentially, whereas like for us, and I can't, like, I don't want to say that that's like just like a broad, like that's such a broad blanket statement. That's not like it happens to everyone and that everyone assumes that guys are doctors, but it's happened enough that people will think that I'm a nurse, and I don't think my male colleagues have ever dealt with that. And nurses are fantastic, and at this point in my training, I wish I could be as effective and as good at providing care as nurses. They're incredible, but it's kind of annoying that people just assume that based on like me being a young woman. So in other regards, I haven't really personally had any bad experiences in which I felt I never was in any other like uncomfortable positions for that. It's not to say that it doesn't happen, because it does, but I've never been in an experience like that. In terms of neurosurgery, it's the residents, like here, it's still like male predominated, but there are a few females, and one of the female residents here is like she's the most passionate, smart, hardworking like person I've ever met, and she's phenomenal, and she's someone I like really look up to and wish I could be half as energetic and passionate as she is. So it's really helpful to have people to like look to and look up to that are kind of paving the way for you. In terms of the military, um, my experience is pretty limited, because when you do the HPSP program, they're basically like, your only commitment right now is to pass and graduate. I had, between that first and second year summer, I had 5 weeks of training in Newport, Rhode Island for the military. But besides that, like my commitment is just like graduate medical school. And in my 5 weeks in the military, it was pretty much the military is not 50-50 women, men. I don't know the statistic, but like my class was pretty even. I think that there's probably no, I don't want to like make statements that I have no data for, but my experience, my 5 weeks, like I said, very small amount, but was very positive, and there's a lot of like strong women, and the men were all respectful. And again, that's not to say that other people don't have that problem. So, but my experience has been positive.
Yeah, that's good. That's like, it should at least be headed in that direction, I feel like. And even if it's like, there are still problems, there should be less and less and less. So I was wondering this, I wonder if other people were wondering this. So when you're working with the neurosurgery department, what are the things you get to do, like when you're on that rotation? Is it mostly like being in the OR and like seeing the surgeries, or are there other things too?
So this is like very program dependent. So for this program, so currently I'm doing a rotation at my home institution, which is North Shore University Hospital. Home institution meaning like this is the this is a hospital that like is connected to my school. So like my school, I go to Zucker School of Medicine. It's at Hofstra / Northwell. So Northwell owns 50%. Northwell Health is like the owns North Shore University Hospital. It owns Lenox Hill. So like we are the Northwell students essentially. So this is my home program. So I did my elective that I keep mentioning 2 weeks in like, I think maybe April, 2 months ago. And then in June, I spent the month doing a neurosurgical ICU rotation. So most of the neurosurgery patients, after they go to the operating room, they go to the neurosurgical ICU where they're monitored and treated by like people like neurointensivists who are more medicine doctors, and they're not or they can be surgeons, but more medicine, and they're just taking care of the patients post-op. So I was that rotate. So I got basically for the month of June that I was there before I'm here now, I was seeing the residents that I already knew from my 2-week elective. So like I was interacting with them a lot. Once I started my current rotation, like I already knew them. So, and I have a good relationship with most of them. So they're kind of like, my experience right now has been like, I've been going to the OR nearly every day. I'll do like 1 day a week, I'll go to the office with one of the attendings, but I'll go to the OR every day. If I'm here on a weekend, then I'm doing like, I'll be like on the consults kind of side, which is if someone has like a neurosurgery issue, or something that they think might be a neurosurgery issue, whether it's from like the emergency room or someone that's admitted to a different like medical service, like they're here on the internal medicine floor, we'll go and examine them, and we'll look at their imaging, like their CAT scans or MRIs, and see if there's something that like our service can do for them. So to answer your original question, I've been in the OR mostly, but I know that that's changed. But I think part of that is because like I know the residents, and they're, like I said earlier, this is definitely like it's almost like an audition of like trying to demonstrate to the attendings and the residents here that like you would be a good fit for their program. But like I said, because I know the residents and I have a good relationship with them, their goal for me is to get to know the attendings better. So to do that, I've been going to the OR. Now you can do away rotations where you'll spend a month in a different hospital. And those programs, it varies. Like there's a resident here who at his away rotation, he said he was on the floor. And when I say on the floor, it's like doing the consult things. Like you get a call that you have to see this patient that's not in the OR, that's just like being treated, or you have to go to the emergency room to see someone who might need neurosurgical intervention or whatever it may be. And he said that on one of his away rotations, he went to the OR one time, and he was mostly like on the floor doing like consult stuff. So that's just to show that it really depends on the program. Here, when I get to go to the OR, there obviously like the main priority for them is to train the residents, the attendings to train the residents. So the residents are doing a lot of things, but there's a big enough caseload here that I can often be it'll be like the attending is scrubbed in, the resident is scrubbed in, and then me. So I do have the opportunity to like get in there and like kind of participate more, which is really awesome. So that's what I've mostly been doing.
Yeah, that's so cool that you get to scrub in. It's a lot of fun. Yeah, I like saw neurosurgery for the first time, like actual brain surgery, and it is like such a crazy experience. It's like, whoa.
Yes.
Yeah, it's pretty nuts. So on another note, Bella asked, like, do you have hobbies? Is your life like mostly just working right now? Like, do you have time to get to like pursue other things and like have fun? I don't know. Just to give people a sense.
That's such a good question, and that's so important, and I'm so happy that someone asked that, because if you don't keep close to the things that like give you energy and that you love, then it's going to be really hard to go at your career every day with a smile and give all of your energy and thoughts at that point to your patients and, you know, your work. So definitely was in college, I was able to still like make sure like I was able to have fun and do things other than like lacrosse and study. But I definitely was spending a ton of time doing both of those things. Like, it was hard work. I'm not going to sugarcoat it, but I still was able to make time for myself. But again, sometimes it's harder than others. Like, you'll have some weeks that you don't really get to, but then you have to remember on the other weeks that you do get to, that you should, you know, go out and do what, you know, energizes you. In medical school, this will vary based on like how you are in terms of like how, if you're a perfectionist, which a lot of people are, because that's you kind of almost have to be to get into medical school. A lot of people will work harder than they might have to. It'll never go to waste, because you can always know more, for sure. But I think some people have a hard time balancing like studying and like making sure they're doing things for themselves. But for our school, what was nice about our curriculum in Hofstra was we'd have like 3 like finals weeks a year. So what that meant was you would spend like a few months that you didn't have a test coming up. You had to like make sure you were studying and preparing for class and all every day. So you're still studying, but like you can like make time to do the things that you wanted to do. Similarly, like our class structure was our class was like 8 to 12 or 8 to 1 every day. So you had the second half of the day to, you know, study and learn. But some people in my class were like, I'm going to study and do all my work during the week, and during the weekend, I'm going to go do things that I want to do. Some people would be like, I'm going to take it easy during the week so I don't overwhelm myself. And on the weekend, like I'll go to the library for a little bit. So there's definitely like, and I don't know, I can't speak to other schools because I know that like the way that it's set up for us, like it was purposefully meant to be like that. But so that's how first and second years, like we're able to do that kind of stuff. Third year, but by third year, you kind of have your own flow by then. Like, you know how much time you need for yourself, and you learn how to like make it work. Right now for my neurosurgery sub-I, and again, sub-I means sub-internship. So I'm trying to demonstrate that I can be at the level of an intern. That's essentially what you're trying to do. And interns especially now, are learning a ton because they just started their internship. So they're here quite often. So I've had less time to myself since I started here, but the hope is that like once the intern, a lot of the things that the interns are learning are like how to even just like learn how to like use the electronic medical record, where things are in the hospital, what numbers to call for certain things. So a lot of like that kind of stuff, they're in a month or 2 from now, they're going to have down pat, and they're not going to have to stay as late because they're going to be way more efficient. So it's one of those things where they're always going to work really hard
I think we just lost you. No.
Can you hear me?
Yes, now I can hear you.
Sorry. I don't think I could hear you though.
You can't hear me?
I started playing with like my speaker case and I think that made.
Oh no. Can you hear me? No. No.
Hold on. Wait, give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. Okay. I'm going to keep talking to answer your question, and then I'm going to, while I'm doing that, figure out how to turn my Bluetooth off.
Perfect.
It should be easy for most people, but I'm actually not that technologically savvy. Okay. And then someone might have asked me what my hobbies are. I don't know. Yeah. Okay. Can someone say something?
Hello. I'm the only one who can speak. Oh, you can hear me. Okay, awesome. Good job.
My headphones over there, so don't play with them. Okay. I love to work out. So I, all throughout medical school, like made it a priority for myself that like it would be something that I did, you know, like 4 to 5 times a week, because I think it's it like is healthy and it refreshed my brain. I would often, like, if I feel overwhelmed, which happens often, I just can go work out and I just like feel recharged. Another thing I like to do is in the winter, I a few years ago started snowboarding. That's something that I like to do in the winter. I recently, with COVID, was able to also look for hobbies, other outdoor hobbies. So now I started hiking. I like, you know, trying to find new places to explore. So those are some of the things that I like to do, and spend time with my family. My parents live like at 45 minutes east of me, and I have a cute dog that lives with them. So all of those things are things that, you know, keep me going and help me recharge.
Can I jump in for a second?
Yes.
First of all, I missed the beginning. I don't know if you how emotionally. Did you tell everybody how you changed your mind? You did. So I think my perspective, the reason why I thought it would be important for Sharon to talk, is not both from a women's in medicine perspective in neurosurgery, but also just anybody, you know, male, female, you know, or otherwise, that you know, change, and you have to be open to change. You have to be open to the idea that we make our minds up about certain things, and then something happens, and you have to be willing to like question yourself. And you know, Sharon kind of did that. It was sort of all happened in about 24 hours, which is maybe the most remarkable thing about it. But, you know, what I sensed in her when I met her, when I just watched the way she behaved in the operating room, was a very unique skill set. After seeing people come through the OR time and time again, multiple medical students over the last 22 years, and also knowing the residents and medical students that I've known as a medical student and as a resident. And in the end, seeing the way that her activities and the way that she thought through problems, I just thought that, you know, wanted to make sure that she really was doing what she was doing for the reasons that she should be. And it turned out that she wasn't. But you're not going to always have somebody who's going to pick that up about you. You're not going to always have a mentor or somebody who's willing to even, you know, cross paths with you and potentially change your mind. So sometimes you have to do it for yourself. You have to be honest with yourself. Don't do things because your mom wants you to do it, or, you know, somebody in your family was this, or, you know, you're afraid to upset someone. Because you know what? The worst thing is if you choose the wrong, whether it's medicine or law, and if you're going to be a doctor, the same thing, you know, because you're only going to regret it. And take the shot. And, you know, those people, if they really love you and are really have your best interests in mind, aren't going to be, they might be hurt a little bit. That's their ego. But if they really love you and they really want you to be successful, they're going to support whatever decision you have. And I just thought that your transition was just so interesting. And I think you're such a great, you know, you're going to be such a great young doctor, that having you on this group. I know Haley couldn't do it. Haley Spagna, who was going to join Sharon today, is a 44-year-old woman with 3 kids, or 2 or 3 kids, who had a completely different job and then went back to medical school. She's in medical school now. She unfortunately had a medical issue, so we'll hopefully have her next year. But she's like, it's also, that's a little different from her. She always thought she wanted to be a doctor and blew it off and did other stuff. And then realized it was in her, that she really wanted to do it. Her husband called me, said, told me about her, and that's how I met her. But, these things happen all the time. I think, unfortunately, they do happen more commonly to women because they don't perceive themselves as being capable, or they don't see themselves in that model, or they don't, identify that as possible, or it's possible, but it's too much. I can't do this or that. And I think both of you, and certainly Sharon today, is representative of, took some, you took some risk, and you took, you really, I'm sure that first night was a little rough. I don't know if you described that. I've never talked to you about that, what was going through your head and what you were telling yourself. Maybe, have you already talked about that or no?
You can talk about that more, Sharon.
Yeah. I'd love to hear, like, when you went home that night, like, what happened? Like, were you just talking to yourself, your boyfriend, your friends, I know it was a little bit tough with your family, but what was going on? How did you make that transition?
So I was telling them that when I spent the week with you, I had such a great time, but I didn't think that, I just thought it was too late for me to make the switch because of most people, start working on their CV so early. So I didn't even consider that it was actually an option. And then I remember every surgery I saw, I loved. And then on the last day of the week that I was with you, I was in a case with Dr. D'Amico. And it was Dr. D'Amico and Jen, your PA, and myself. And I saw, unfortunately, I couldn't stay for the whole case because I had another commitment that I had to go to for an outpatient clinic. But it was a case where there was a tumor in the spinal cord, and I left right after it was exposed, but it was really just, I got to see the tumor, and they used a dye to help enhance it and light it up. And it was just the coolest thing I'd ever seen. And I left and I just wanted more. I was like, that can't be I didn't get to see the end of the case. So I didn't even get to see it being taken out. But I just remember leaving and being like, that can't be the last time that I saw that. And that can't be the last time that one day that I got to see a live brain, that can't be the last time that I see a brain. And at that point, I kind of was like, would it be okay if it was the last time I saw, it was a part of someone's delivery? Because I was thinking OBGYN. And that was kind of the conversation I was having with myself. What am I okay with not doing, and will I be upset if I never get to see it again? So that was kind of why I was like, okay, maybe I should really consider neurosurgery. And I don't want to not try because I think it's too late, because what do I know? Let me talk to people that actually do know. And Dr. Langer put me in touch with a female neurosurgeon that went through the Navy. So someone that I could be in my future.
She happens to be right here. She's sitting right here. Here's Dr. Galad.
Hi, there she is.
Sorry,
Yeah.
this is our one of the only chairs of neurosurgery in the system, and who's a woman, or the only chairs of any surgical department, and she's a woman. So there you go.
And
it is possible.
Yeah, and she served our country, so she's exactly someone that I hopefully can follow in a similar footsteps. But so he put me in touch with her. He put me in touch with Dr. Shoulder, who's a program director here, and the program directors of residency programs. They're the ones that are, they're in charge of the residency program. So they're saying yes or no to people that are coming in. So he has his hand in. He sees every application. He is part of every interview process. So he knows and he has friends that do the same at other institutions. So he knows, what actually is a competitive applicant and what isn't. And in my head, I wasn't a competitive applicant. So when I got to speak to him, I realized that it would take work, but it was not unrealistic, and that it was definitely possible. And I kind of also so right from there, I was like, all right, let me get on research projects. And at that point, I had set myself up nicely for OBGYN. If I stayed with OBGYN, the past couple months, I would have gone home for the day and kicked up my feet and relaxed, and it would all have been, done. But the past few months, I come home and I get right into research because I'm passionate and I want to pursue it. And that's kind of also confirmed that I'm doing the right thing, because if you had to, if you could either have it kind of, you know, like if you could go home and just relax for a few months because you did the work for that field versus, okay, now I'm going to have to work really hard to go this route, and you're not tired by it and you're not dreading it and it's refreshing to you, then that's another way to kind of check that like you're doing what you want to be doing for the right reasons. So that's part of it. And yeah, I just got to talk to a lot of people because like I said, my experience was limited. I was with Dr. Langer for a week. I was at the residence for 2 weeks, but that's still not enough to like, you know, go off of making a whole decision about your life. So I was able to like, I talked to a bunch of attendings and talked to my family. My parents were very supportive of it. And I was like, you know what, we're doing this. And I just went for it and I haven't looked back. And every day I, you know, get here at 4:45 in the morning and leave at 7:30 at night. And I'm excited the next day to go, which is just not something I thought I would ever say. So
That's awesome. Well, I just wanted to thank you for coming. I'm going to jump. I love your fake background with a locker room. That's a really cool fake background.
No,
I'm kidding. You don't know me. You don't know me too well yet. So anyway, good luck. You stay in touch. You know I have plans for you, so don't be a stranger. You may have to get up at 3:45 to do everything. So, but thanks for joining us, Sharon. You're just absolutely terrific, and I'm so glad you could take this minute. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
Bye.
Of course, bye, Dr. Linker.
Bye.
He's great. He's always making jokes. Oh, you said you would drop your email, Sharon. Do you still want to do that, or?
I'm realizing that there's 1,000 people on this call, and I don't know how realistic it is to answer 1,000 questions. But if people typically like ask you questions,
yeah, they can.
Not you either, but like there's
yeah. And I can always
way to filter it a little bit.
Yeah,
that would be great. But I just realistically, I don't know that I can answer 1,000 emails.
Yeah, that's been very common. Yeah, to people like decide that they aren't going to end up doing that. Yeah, you will get spammed. So, which is great because people want to know, but also like you have a life outside of brain turns, so you have things to do. Okay, so thank you so much for being here, Sharon. Your story is awesome. Excited to see all the things that you do. We are on to our next segment, so we can let you go. But thank you. Thank you so much for one of the best talks we've had. Oh, if you want to plug your social media, you can do that. If you want to like throw an Instagram out there, I don't know.
I don't have like I need to get a like professional Twitter. I don't have that.
Gotcha. Okay.
I apologize.
Okay, no worries. You're good. If you wanted the follows, that was what we put out there. But yeah, okay, awesome. So thank you again. We have Dr. Ortiz here. Hello.
Thank you guys. Enjoy the rest of your morning.
Thank you. Bye, Sharon.
Bye.